What's up? It's Israel. Today we're going to talk about staging. Staging is the hardest part of Revature training, in my opinion. At least it was for me. I think part of the reason is that when you're in training, there's a clear path, you have a curriculum. But when you're in staging, there's no set time for staging. It could last a week, it could last months, you don't know. And the point of it sometimes is not that clear, you know. You feel like you already know everything that you need to know to get a job, but right now you're just waiting for interviews, waiting to get chosen to get accepted. So it can be a very frustrating time. Um, the Sometimes the information presented in staging, personally, sometimes I felt it was not as useful as the information that was presented during training. So for all of these reasons, even though training is hard, staging can be a lot harder. So I'm going to give you some tips. These are personal that help me, and I think can probably help you too to get through staging. The first tip I would give is focus on preparing for interviews and solving algorithms, getting better at algorithms. Because at the end of the day, like that's what is going to get you a job. You know, there's a lot of things you have to do in staging, like attend events and meetings and all of these mandatory things. But those things are just a means to an end. The real end is to focus on getting better at interviews and focus on getting better at algorithms, and a lot of that you can do on your own. So you see this document I have pulled up right here. This is something that was shared with us, and I think if it's not shared with you, you can ask for something like this. Basically, it was just a list of common interview questions, um, which previous candidates had been asked and which they had written down. So a key thing is like when you do go to interview, it's good if you can write down some of the questions that you were asked to help people that are coming next. So these are some that we got. These are specific to the client that we were mapped to. So, but these are also just very good. My stack is Java, Angular, GCP. So these are just very good Java, Angular, GCP questions in general. And then what I did was to make a copy of this and then to fill it out. Some of these answers, it's been a few months, as you can see. So some of these answers are, don't judge the quality of these answers, but I would just go through and try to Google and fill this out and then use it like flashcards. So I would try to hide like this column and then, you know, ask myself the question and then see if I could get the answer. And you can also make um, like Quizlets out of these. You can upload this to Quizlet and it'll give you flashcards. You can just drill yourself on this. A lot of these questions are asked to you by your interviewers. And then the other thing is you can get good at algorithms. So you can go on LeetCode is a little advanced, but you can go on there. There's another website that's a little bit easier, which I'm blanking on right now. But you just need to practice some very basic, like my stack is Java, so I practice some very basic Java algorithms. Uh, we got this document as well, this interview expectations document. So the most useful part of this was this right here, which just told us the kind of questions that would be asked. So FizzBus, palindrome, reverse a string, Fibonacci, sorting a list, etc. And these last ones, because I didn't have that much experience with collections, these last ones, sorting really helped me. So even though I didn't get asked any of these in particular, I know some, I know a lot of people who did, or some like variation of this, and even just practicing this will help. Also, if you're lucky and you're not the first to interview, you can ask whoever in your batch is the first to interview with the client that you're going to interview with, like what coding question they were asked, and even who interviewed them. And most interviewers kind of repeat their coding questions, so you'll be able to just practice what they were asked in addition to this, and you should be okay. And it's okay if you don't know everything. I should also show you this. So we have this like miscellaneous tips document that was shared with us. We got a lot of really good resources. Um, but I've learned like not every batch got resources like this. So if you don't, you can ask like, hey, do you have some tips for interviewing? You can ask for resources if you don't automatically get them. But This last one is really good. Like there are always questions that you're asked that you don't know, and how you respond to that is really important. So um, yeah, even in your coding assessments, the interviewer can help you sometimes. They'll try to help you if you get stuck, but to see that you're curious, you're trying to learn, you're trying to understand, and you're calm. You know, your demeanor while failing is important as well, not just whether you get it right or wrong. At least that was my experience. So focus on interviews, focus on getting better at algorithms, especially the very simple ones like FizzBuzz, palindrome, reverse string. These are very common. You don't have to be an expert at leak code, but if you are, that helps. But even if you know like the basics of, especially for Java, the thing I really had to learn was collections because I had no experience with data structures, algorithms. I didn't come from a computer science background. So getting good with those is important. And definitely getting good at interview questions is important. I would also say use the time in staging to do mock interviews. So I had a partner that was in staging with me and is now at my job with me actually. So we both got the job where in the evening we would just hop on a Zoom call together and mock interview each other, but in a serious, challenging way. Basically, we would ask each other these questions and we would ask each other to do things in the IDE. So that's good, like, because it gets you calm, you know, and helps you use professional language and all the things Revature teaches you about interviews, it helps you practice that. So that's the first thing. Get good at interviews and algorithms. The second thing I would say is um, if you don't have to go to a staging event, consider not going. So sometimes the staging events, it's been a few months since I was at Revature actively, but what it felt like to me was that there's not that many people running staging, and there's a lot of people who are in staging. I mean, there's a lot of Revature like associates who are in staging, but not that many people who are in charge of staging. So when you're in training, your batch might be like 27, 28 people. That was like my batch. And then you have one trainer, right? So one person in charge of 27, 28. But in staging, you have one or two people in charge of a much larger amount of people. So it's just hard for them to effectively pass on useful information to you in that time. So some staging events are mandatory and you should go to those, but some that are not mandatory, you should use that time to get better at interviewing. Staging, I was in staging for a short period of time, but if you're in staging for a longer period of time, you are getting paid minimum wage at that time. So it might be useful to look for like a side job or project or something you can do part time, just in case it carries on longer than you're expecting, because it can go on for quite a while, um, and you don't know when it's going to end. So I would say when you're in staging, since your time isn't as regimented and you have a little bit more flexibility, definitely use that time to see if you can get a job or see if you can do something part time or even freelance, um, just to get some income coming in, some extra income coming in. Lastly, I would say prepare for your move. So you're going to be asked to move by Revature, most likely. And um, you shouldn't be caught off guard by that. So as early as possible, you should be trying to figure out what are the possible places you might move to. I'm going to make a video right after this that's going to be about the relocation process, my relocation process. So um, get yourself mentally prepared for that. Talk to if you are renting, you know, try to talk to your apartment manager. Let him know the situation like in full and the unpredictability of it. Just get logistically get everything in place because once you do get an interview, it can be a matter of like a week or 2 weeks before you have to move. So you should use the time in staging and the flexibility there to prepare for that. So to recap, work on interview questions and just the process of interviewing. Um, Work on that, get it fluent. Work on algorithms, basic algorithms for whatever your stack is. You might also want to like get good at talking about your projects, all the things that you need to actually get a job. Really get good at that, and then um, don't go to staging events if you don't have to. You know, uh, you have to follow Revature's rules, but you also have to, you're in charge of your time, so you have to try to spend your time in the best way possible. You have to think, is this helping me? Am I getting value out of this or not? And in the moments where you're not, you might need to be using that time. Even if you're in an event, you might also at the same time need to be using that time in a way that's going to help you get better at getting a job. So, and then prepare for your move, side income, all of those things, and just know it is frustrating. Staging is frustrating, more frustrating than training. So, I don't know how I can help with that, but just know that going into it, know that while you're in it, and just be prepared for it. That's kind of how it is. Let me know in the comments if you're staging, if you're in staging right now, or if you were in staging, what your experience was like, and if you have any tips for future people in staging, or anything I've said that you disagree with, or anything at all. Just let me know in the comments. You can message me on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn is Israel Ofengide, same as my channel name. I wish you all the best. Take care.